and a few tattoos. My parents are Mexican, who are not to be confused with Mexicans still living in Mexico. Those Mexicans call themselves Mexicanos. White folks at parties call them pobrecitos. American colleges call them international students and diverse. My mom was white in Mexico, and my dad was mestizo, and after they crossed the border, they became diverse and minorities and ethnic and exotic. But my parents called themselves Mexicanos, who again should not be confused for Mexicanos living in Mexico. Those Mexicanos might call my family gringos, which is the word my family calls white folks. And white folks call my parents interracial. Colleges say, put them on a brochure. My parents say, ¿qué significa esa palabra? I point out that all the men in my family marry lighter-skinned women. That's the Chicano in me, which means it's the fancy college degrees in me, which is also diverse in me. Everything in me is diverse, even when I eat American foods like hamburgers, which, to clarify, are American when a white person eats them, and diverse when my family eats them. So much of America can be understood like this. My parents were undocumented when they came to this country. And by undocumented, I mean sin papeles. And by sin papeles, I mean royally fucked, which should not be confused with the American dream, though the two are cousins. Colleges are not looking for undocumented diversity. My dad became a citizen, which should not be confused with keys to the house. We were safe from deportation, which should not be confused with walking the plank, though they're cousins. I call that sociology, but that's just the Chicano in me, who should not be confused with the diversity in me, or the Mexicano in me, who is constantly fighting with the upwardly mobile in me, who is good friends with the Mexican American in me, who the colleges love, but only on brochures, who the government calls non-white Hispanic, or white Hispanic, who my parents call mijo, even when I don't come home so much. Keep looking around, I'm like, wow, there's Krista, there's, like, it's just like, I can't find anywhere to look where I'm not gonna burst into tears. This is very hard. Thank you to the museum for having us. Yeah, I'm not even gonna look that way. I'm gonna turn my attention. Thank you to the museum for having us. Thank you to the Poetry Foundation for sponsoring this event. Thank you, Mercedes, for producing these cool shirts. Yeah, shout out to Mercedes, give it up to Mercedes. My homie, José Sentrock, who did the book cover, give it up for him. Gallery F is here too, give it up for Gallery F. They have prints and different merchandise to sell. This next poem is called Gentrification. Yes. I plant a grain of sand in the new organic juice spot in El Barrio. Soon donkeys shit big stinky shits on carrot containers. Our tios y tias smoking cigarettes and taking up all the plugs. The grain of sand grows into a cactus and mi abuelita Jacinta is back with the living. She's kicking the juicers out of her kitchen and making masa. The whole block heard what's happening, and outside the hydrants open and flood the streets. The bad news is the property value is going down again. The bad news is white people are taking Cal with them. The good news is my boy Nate is teaching poetry workshops in the shade. Gwendolyn Brooks smelled the tamales and came down to write, rejoice in the good news. My dad comes through with a cooler of beer, and no one gets drunk enough to fight. My mom's French braid gets longer every minute. Soon it will be long enough to toss to our cousins in Mexico, in LA, in Texas. There are Mexicans in DC who got the call. Salvadorans bringing pupusas. From the cactus, we get a steel mill. From the steel mill, we get more tortillas. The bad news is, the economists say there is zero economic value on our block. The good news is we threw away the economics textbooks. We trade tortillas for haircuts, nopales for healthcare, poems for groceries, and if all you can do is eat the food we ask, you wash your dishes. The donkeys bless everything we grow. From the tortillas, we get more desert. And from the desert, we get lowriders. Cars bounce. Our cousins and gangs get their bendiciones. The whole block is alive and not for sale. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo rescinded. It's happening on our block, and maybe it's happening on your block. The bad news is the president sends the National Reserve. The good news is they'll never find us. We pack everything into the trunk of a Toyota Corolla. When La Migra comes, their dogs bark and spit, but all they find is grains of sand. So this is going to be my last poem.
Two more.
This is going to be my last poem. It's called Mexican Heaven. And then I'm going to sign books. DJ Cashier is going to play good music, and we're going to have a good time. Thank you so much for being here. Mexican Heaven. 1. All of the Mexicans sneak into heaven. St. Peter has their name on the list, but none of the Mexicans have trusted a list since Ronald Reagan was president. 2. St. Peter is a Mexican named Pedro, but he's not a saint. Pedro waits at the gate with a shot of tequila to welcome all the Mexicans to heaven, but he gets drunk and forgets about the list. All the Mexicans walk into heaven, even our no good cousins who only go to church for baptisms and funerals. 3. It turns out God is one of those religious Mexicans who doesn't drink or smoke weed, so all the Mexicans in heaven party in the basement while God reads the Bible and thumbs a rosary. God threatens to kick all the Mexicans out of heaven si no paran con las pendejadas. So the Mexicans drink more discreetly. They smoke outside where God won't smell the weed. God pretends the Mexicans are reformed. Hallelujah. This cycle repeats once a month. Amen. 4. Jesus has a tattoo of La Virgen de Guadalupe covering his back. It turns out he's your cousin Jesus from the block. Turns out he gets reincarnated every day, and no one on earth cares all that much. 5. All the Mexican women refuse to cook, or clean, or raise the kids, or pay bills, or make the bed, or drive you to work, or do anything except watch their novelas. So heaven is gross. The rats are fat as roosters, and the men die of starvation. 6. There are white people in heaven too. They build condos across the street and ask the Mexicans to speak English. I'm just kidding. There are no white people in heaven. I love that applause, though, I guess. I approve of this heaven. 7. Tamales, tacos, tostadas, tortas, pozole, sopes, huaraches, menudo, horchata, jamaica, limonada, agua. 8. This is my Mexican heaven. 8. St. Peter lets Mexicans into heaven, but only to work in the kitchens. A Mexican dishwasher polishes the crystal, smells the meals, and hears the music. They dream of another heaven, one they might be allowed in if only they work hard enough. Thank you all so much.